Please, can you take me to the hospital?
Please, can you take me to the hospital? The woman whispered, doubled over in pain and clutching her belly as the contractions tore through her. People walked past her like she was invisible, just another poor, exhausted woman in the street. Her clothes were worn, her eyes were tired, and she looked like someone the world had already given up on. Then she begged the man standing nearby, a stranger in plain clothes, quiet, distant, unreadable. She didn't know who he was, she didn't know what he carried, and she didn't know the weight of the world he controlled. To her, he was simply hope. But fate has a way of hiding miracles in the most unexpected faces. Because the man she pleaded with, the man who calmly helped her into his car, and the man who stayed by her side through every terrifying moment, was not just a stranger. He was a CEO billionaire, one whose next decision would change her entire life.
Sometimes the person you least expect is the one sent to rewrite your story, and sometimes a single moment of desperation becomes the beginning of destiny. Hello family, welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please, subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten, and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together, we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. Lena Carter felt the contraction hit like someone tightening a belt around her entire stomach. She froze on the sidewalk, her breath catching as she bent forward and grabbed a parking meter for balance. Cars rolled past without slowing. People walked around her like she was a trash bag someone had left on the street. She tried to straighten, but the pain made her knees buckle,
Lowered herself to the curb because falling would hurt worse.
Please, someone!
She reached out a hand, but the woman nearest her veered away, pretending to look at her phone. A man stepped over her bag and didn't even glance down. Another contraction tore through her, sharper and faster than the last. The world blurred. Her throat felt tight, but she forced herself to speak loud enough to be heard.
Can you help me? Please! I need a hospital.
Her voice scraped out as barely more than a whisper, but it was all she had left. She pulled her coat over her belly, hugging it as if she could hold herself together that way. She tasted metal in her mouth from biting down on pain. She had meant to take the bus. She had meant to get to the clinic early. She had meant to do a lot of things. But life had a way of shredding plans. Another wave of pain hit. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, a man was standing a few feet away, watching her. Not staring like
The others who judged or pitied her in passing.
watching, like he was trying to figure out if she was about to collapse or disappear. He wore plain clothes, dark jeans, a clean jacket. But there was something steady about the way he stood. His eyes didn't shift away, he didn't flinch at her pain. She swallowed and tried again. Please, can you take me to the hospital? For a second, she expected him to do what everyone else did, pretend he didn't hear her. Instead, he stepped closer. Are you in labor? His voice was calm in a way that made her want to cry. Calm like he saw people in trouble all the time and didn't scare easily. She nodded. I think so. I can't get there on my own. Okay. He crouched beside her. Can you stand? Yes, just give me a second. He didn't rush her. He offered his hand but didn't grab her, letting her decide if she wanted the help. She took it, surprised by the warmth and the quiet strength in his grip. When she pulled
Herself up, he steadied her with a hand on her elbow.
I'm parked right there, he said. Take your time. She tried to move, but the next contraction made her grip his jacket tight. She hated the sound she made. A small, broken groan she couldn't swallow. She felt embarrassed even though she shouldn't have been. You're doing fine, he told her, low and steady. Those 3 words almost undid her. He got her into his car gently, as if she were made of glass. When he closed the door and walked around to the driver's side, she let herself breathe for the first time in minutes. Thank you, she said as he started the engine. You don't have to thank me. She looked at him, really looked. There was something quiet about him, something pulled in, like he was carrying a weight she couldn't see. His face didn't give much away. No smile, no frown, just calm control. What's your name? She asked. Ethan. Thank you, Ethan. His hands tightened briefly on the wheel, like the words landed deeper than she meant them to. The drive wasn't long, but every minute felt stretched thin. The contractions came harder, faster. She focused on breathing, counting, anything to stay grounded. Ethan kept his voice steady when he spoke. You're almost there. You don't have to stay once you drop me off, she said between breaths. I know you probably have somewhere to be. I do, he admitted, but I'm not leaving you until you're with a doctor. Something in his tone told her he meant it. When they pulled into the emergency loop, he jumped out before she could open her door. He flagged down 2 nurses, explaining what was happening with a clarity she didn't have anymore. He walked beside the stretcher as they rushed her through the sliding doors. Her heart pounded. She was scared. More scared than she wanted to admit. She hadn't prepared for any of this to happen today. Inside the room, nurses hooked her up to monitors and checked her vitals. Everything moved fast. People asked questions she could barely answer. But Ethan stayed back, leaning in the corner, giving her space while also staying close enough that she knew she wasn't alone. Do you have someone to call? He asked gently. She nodded. My boyfriend. He'll come. Good, Ethan said, but something in his tone made it sound like he wasn't sure that was true. She turned her head toward him. His eyes met hers, and she saw something she didn't expect. Concern. Real concern. Not the polite kind people force when they feel obligated. She held on to that for a moment, drew strength from it. Thank you for not ignoring me, she said. Everyone else did. He didn't look away. You asked for help. The simplicity of it struck her. He said it like that was enough, like it was obvious, like she mattered. A contraction hit so strong she grabbed the railing of the bed. She squeezed her eyes shut. She felt someone take her free hand. She looked up to see Ethan had stepped close again. Breathe, he said. Right here with me. Just breathe. She followed his pace, slow and controlled. It helped more than she expected. When the doctor arrived, Ethan stepped back again, becoming a quiet shadow in the room. Lena watched him for a second. There was a strange feeling in her chest, a pull she didn't understand, a kind of recognition, like he knew something about being alone in a crowd, like they had that in common. She didn't have the words for it, so she focused on the doctor's instructions. Time blurred after that. Her phone buzzed over and over on the table. Mark's name lit up the screen. She kept telling nurses, "Please send him in when he gets here." He didn't arrive for nearly an hour. By then, the baby was almost crowning, and Lena was sweating through her gown. She was exhausted, shaking, scared, but she refused to fall apart. Mark burst into the room finally, out of breath like he'd run a marathon. His eyes darted around until they landed on Ethan. "Who the hell is that?" he snapped. Lena winced at the tone. "He helped me get here, that's all." Mark glared at Ethan, then at her, like she'd betrayed him by being in pain in front of another man. Ethan didn't react. He didn't even blink. He just gave Lena a small nod and stepped toward the door. "You'll be okay," he said quietly. "Thank you," she whispered. He turned and walked out, and she felt the absence immediately, like a door closing in a silent room. She didn't see him again after that. Mark took the chair Ethan had stood near. He didn't ask how she was. He didn't touch her. He didn't look at her with anything like concern. Instead, under his breath, he muttered, "Next time, maybe call me instead of some stranger." She didn't answer. She didn't have the strength to defend herself. Hours later, after the delivery, Lena drifted in and out of sleep while nurses checked on her and the baby. She felt raw, tired, and heavy with emotions she didn't have the energy to sort through. Mark paced the room, grumbling about missing work. At one point, she watched him go through her bag, checking pockets. She was too foggy to react, but something hollow settled in her chest when he quietly slipped something into his own pocket. It took her a while to realize it was the cash she'd saved for diapers. Somewhere down the hallway, she thought she heard a familiar voice, a man's voice, speaking quietly with a nurse. Her heart fluttered once, though she couldn't explain why. But when she looked out the doorway, no one was there. Later that evening, Mark finally left to get food, which she doubted. She tried to rest. Her phone vibrated again, but not with messages this time. Notifications. A wave of them. Her sister Rachel had posted something online. Funny how some people pretend they're victims for attention. Pregnancy doesn't make you a saint. Hundreds of comments. People piling on, saying things that cut even though they didn't know her. Lena put the phone down before she could cry. She turned on the small TV mounted in the corner, looking for a distraction. A news alert flashed across the screen. Breaking: CEO Ethan Hale missing during company crisis. A photo appeared, his face unmistakable. Lena's breath caught. Her pulse jumped. It was him. The man who helped her. The man who held her hand through the worst pain she'd ever felt. The man who disappeared before she could thank him. The billionaire everyone was looking for. She stared at the screen, heart pounding, whispering to herself, "Why would someone like him stop for me?" She didn't know that at that same moment, in a dark parking lot not far from the hospital, Ethan sat in his car with his hands still on the wheel, unable to drive away, asking himself the same thing. Mark didn't come back with food. Lena didn't expect him to, but the empty chair beside her still made her chest tighten. She pulled the thin blanket tighter around her shoulders and looked over at the sleeping baby in the bassinet. The tiny breaths, the small movements, the soft sounds, those were the only steady things in the room. A nurse came in quietly to check the monitors. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" "Tired," Lena murmured. "And sore. And—" she hesitated. "Just everything." The nurse nodded as if she understood the parts Lena didn't say. "That's normal. Today was a lot." Lena nodded, because it was easier than explaining the weight sitting behind her ribs. The nurse finished her notes and slipped out. The room felt bigger without anyone in it, like the silence stretched too far. She reached for her phone, then stopped. She didn't want to see the notifications. She didn't want to see Rachel's name. She didn't want to see Mark's excuses. Her stomach twisted, not from the birth,
but from something else. Something she didn't want to name. She thought about Ethan, his voice, his steadiness, the way he didn't pull back from her pain, and the way he left without letting her thank him. She replayed the moment he stepped out of the room, the calm nod, the careful way he'd said, "You'll be okay." Something in his tone had felt like a promise, like he meant it more than a stranger should. She rubbed her thumb across the edge of the blanket. It was ridiculous to think about him. He probably went back to whatever life men like him had, jobs, families, real responsibilities. He didn't owe her anything. Still, the space he left behind felt too wide. The door swung open. Mark finally returned, carrying a soda and a half-eaten sandwich he'd clearly started without her. "They took forever," he said, though she could smell fast food on him. She didn't bother correcting him. She didn't have the energy. He dropped the sandwich wrapper on the counter, pulled out his phone, and didn't say another word. Not about her, not about the baby, not about the man who helped her. Lena let her head fall back against the pillow. Another contraction hit, not physical this time, but emotional. A squeeze of disappointment, worn and familiar. Mark looked at her sideways. "Why are you staring at me?" "I'm not," she said softly. He snorted. "Good, because I didn't come here to get judged." She closed her eyes again, feeling her heartbeat thud against her eyelids. She didn't want a fight. She just wanted peace for 1 minute. He paced, then picked up her bag again. "Where's the rest of your cash?" Lena's eyes opened. "What? You had more earlier." Maybe I used it. I don't know. I wasn't exactly keeping track while giving birth." He studied her face, then shrugged like he didn't believe her, but didn't care enough to push the point. He dropped a bag and went back to scrolling. She wished she could disappear into the blanket. A soft knock sounded at the door, but before she could answer, a nurse stepped in, holding a clipboard. "Do you need me to take the baby to the nursery for a bit so you can rest?" Lena looked over at the bassinet, torn. She wanted to sleep, but she also wanted to keep the baby close. She didn't want anything else taken from her today. Mark spoke first. "Yeah, take him. She needs sleep." Lena stiffened. "I didn't say that." The nurse looked between them, waiting. Lena shook her head. "He stays with me." The nurse nodded and left. Mark muttered something under his breath, but she didn't ask what. She didn't want to hear it. Her phone vibrated again on the tray table. Mark glanced at it and scoffed. "Your sister's at it again," he said. "She's posting all this crap about you." A cold ache slid through Lena. "What did she say?" "That you're dramatic, that you act helpless, that you're basically doing this for attention." Lena covered her eyes with her hand. "Why does she hate me so much?" "Because she's right," Mark said. The words hit harder than the contractions had. She didn't respond. She couldn't. If she did, she might break. Mark sighed and grabbed his jacket. "I'm going outside. Air in here feels heavy." He left before she could decide whether she wanted him gone or wanted him to stay. The room quieted again. The only sound was the steady beep of the monitor and the soft breaths of her newborn. Lena wiped her eyes with the heel of her hand and made herself breathe evenly. She reached for the remote and clicked the TV on, anything to fill the silence. A commercial played first. Then a reporter's face filled the screen, urgent and polished. "Breaking news tonight. CEO Ethan Hale remains unaccounted for as Hale Industries faces a major shareholder dispute."
Lena froze. The air went thin. A photo appeared alongside the reporter, sharp jaw, steady eyes, plain clothes. Ethan. Her Ethan. The stranger who helped her into his car. The man who held her hand during contractions. The man who stayed until he knew she wasn't alone. The man who left quietly, almost like he didn't want to be seen. Her heart pounded against her ribs like it wanted out. She leaned forward, staring at the screen as if trying to pull him from it.
The reporter continued. Sources say he disappeared from corporate meetings earlier this afternoon. His absence is expected to impact the ongoing vote. But Lena didn't hear the rest. A sharp breath escaped her.
Oh my God, she whispered. That was him.
The reality hit her all at once, rushing in too fast to brace for. Ethan Hale, a billionaire, a missing CEO, a man whose name people said like it carried weight. And he had been standing on a street corner in plain clothes, offering her help when everyone else walked past. She clutched the blanket with both hands, heart thudding so loudly she could hear it.
Why would someone like him stop for me?
She whispered. She didn't know that at that exact moment, in the dark hospital parking lot, Ethan Hale was sitting behind the wheel of his car, engine off, still unable to force himself to drive away, asking himself the same question. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give a future to children and women who have been abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Also, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from and how did this story speak to you? Lena didn't sleep much the night after giving birth. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ethan's face on the hospital TV, half shadowed, half lit, like someone caught between two different worlds. She kept hearing his voice too, steady, calm, grounding in a way she still didn't understand. By morning, the nurses had removed her IV and told her she could go home later that day if everything stayed normal. She tried to focus on that. A fresh start, a new life with her baby, a chance to breathe again. Mark stumbled in around 9, smelling like cigarettes and cold air. His hair was messy, and he had the look of someone who hadn't slept either. But Lena knew the difference between worry and guilt. He wore guilt on him like a jacket. "You could have texted me," he said before even saying hello. "I was asleep," Lena answered, "and you weren't here." His mouth pulled tight. "You're always making me the bad guy." Lena didn't argue. She held her baby instead, letting the warmth of the tiny body calm her. Mark paced near the window. "So when can we leave?"
The doctor said maybe this afternoon.
"Good," he muttered, "because we can't stay here. You know how expensive hospitals are." Even though Ethan had covered everything, Mark didn't know that. She hadn't told him. She wasn't sure why. Maybe because she wanted something in her life that wasn't immediately turned into a fight. A soft knock sounded, and a nurse opened the door.
You have a visitor.
Lena looked at Mark, confused, but then the nurse stepped aside. Ethan Hale walked in. He wasn't dressed like a billionaire. His shirt sleeves were rolled up. His jacket looked simple, practical. He carried no entourage, no noise, no pressure, just quiet presence. Lena's breath caught. Mark's expression twisted immediately. "You again!" Ethan nodded politely but didn't look at him long. His eyes found Lena, and that was all.
I wanted to make sure you were all right.
Her throat tightened.
I I am, thank you.
He stepped closer, but not too close, keeping a respectful distance. And the baby?
She's healthy,
Lena said, glancing down at her daughter with a soft smile.
They said we might go home today.
That's good, he said quietly. You did well yesterday. The compliment warmed her in a place she thought had gone cold. Mark folded his arms. Why are you here? Ethan's jaw tightened for half a second, but his tone stayed calm. Because she didn't deserve to go through that alone. Lena looked at him, surprised at how simply he said it. Like the truth didn't need decorating. Mark scoffed. Well, she had me. Ethan didn't answer. He didn't need to. Lena felt the tension forming like static. It's fine. It was kind of him to check on us, that's all.
Ethan nodded once. If you need anything, rides, supplies, anything practical, here's my number. He set a card on the table. I can take care of my own girlfriend, Mark snapped. Ethan finally looked at him straight on, his voice steady. Then take care of her. Mark's mouth opened like he had a comeback, but nothing came out. Lena's cheeks warmed, and she wasn't sure if it was embarrassment or something else beneath the surface, something that made her chest feel too full. Before anyone could say more, Ethan turned back to her. Rest today. Don't rush anything.
I won't,
she said softly.
I'll stop by tomorrow to see how you're settling in.
He said it lightly, like a casual offer, but Lena saw something else in his eyes. Something careful. Something he wasn't naming. Then he left the room, the door clicking shut with a final, quiet sound. Mark waited all of 3 seconds before exploding.
So that's it, you're collecting rich guys now? Going behind my back while I'm out trying to take care of us?
What?
Lena stared at him.
Mark, no. He just helped me, that's all.
He helped you too much.
He saved me, Mark. I was in labour on the sidewalk. Nobody else cared.
That doesn't mean you let him hang around afterward.
He came to check on us, that's it.
Mark paced back and forth, rubbing the back of his neck. I don't like it. She didn't say it, but she didn't care if he liked it. She cared about someone doing the right thing without expecting something in return. Ethan hadn't tried to touch her or impress her. He didn't flirt. He didn't brag. He wasn't even warm. He was just steady. Part of her wished she could be that steady too. When they finally discharged her, Mark handled the papers while she bundled the baby against her chest. Outside, the air was cool and sharp. They waited for the rideshare Mark had called.
But Lena paused when she saw a familiar car parked across the lot. A dark sedan. The same one Ethan had driven yesterday. He was sitting inside, hands on the wheel, watching to make sure she made it out safely. When he saw her look over, he gave a small nod through the window. Not a wave, not a smile, just a quiet confirmation that he was there if she needed him. She nodded back. Mark didn't catch the exchange. He was too busy complaining about the wait time. The ride home was uncomfortable in ways she couldn't explain. The baby was fussing. Her body ached. Mark kept muttering about bills. Nothing felt safe. Nothing felt settled. Their apartment wasn't much. When they walked in, the air smelled like old takeout containers. Clothes were piled on the couch. The sink held plates she didn't remember leaving. Lena adjusted her daughter in her arms.
I'll clean up later.
No rush, Mark said, already dropping onto the couch. Hand me the baby.
She hesitated. Let me just get settled.
Just give her here, he snapped. Lena stiffened, then passed the baby over gently. Mark held her like he was holding something fragile, but also something he wasn't sure belonged to him.
What are you doing?
Lena asked. Just looking, he said. Trying to see if she looks like me. Her stomach dropped.
Why would you say that?
He shrugged. Just making sure. Anger flared in her chest, sharp and unexpected. She took the baby back.
Don't talk like that.
He raised his hands.
Relax. I'm joking.
She knew he wasn't. Mark didn't joke about things unless he meant them. She rocked the baby, humming softly, grounding herself in the familiar rhythm. Her phone buzzed with a new notification. She ignored it, then another, and another. She finally pulled out the phone with a sigh. More comments. More strangers tearing her apart because of Rachel's posts.
Maybe she should have kept her legs closed.
Some people just want pity.
That baby deserves a better mum. Her chest tightened until she couldn't breathe. She locked the phone and set it down. Mark glanced over. What's wrong now?
Nothing,
she whispered. He didn't push. He didn't come comfort her either. He just switched the TV on and drowned himself in noise. That night, while the baby slept against her shoulder, Lena sat in the dim light of the living room and let herself think of Ethan. Not the billionaire on TV. The man who steadied her through contractions. The man who listened. The man who made the world feel a little less heavy for a moment. She wondered what he was doing right then. If he was back in some boardroom. If he was fighting whatever crisis he'd walked away from to help her. She wondered why he came, and why she wished he'd come again. The next morning there was a knock at the door. Lena froze, startled. Mark was in the shower, humming loudly and off-key. She shifted the baby on her hip and opened the door a crack. Ethan stood there. He looked different in daylight, still quiet, still controlled, but more worn, like he hadn't slept much either. He held a grocery bag filled with baby essentials, formula, diapers, bottles, a small blanket. I didn't want to intrude, he said. I just thought you might need these. Lena stared, overwhelmed. You didn't have to do that. I know. She swallowed. Come in. He stepped inside carefully, looking around the apartment without judgment, though she saw the flicker in his eyes at the clutter. Not disgust, concern. The baby made a small sound. Ethan glanced at her, and something softened in his expression that made Lena catch her breath. How are you feeling today? He asked. Tired, she admitted, but better. He nodded. Good. Before she could say more, Mark walked out of the hallway in a towel. He froze. Ethan froze. Lena's stomach dropped.
What the hell is this? Mark snapped. You just let him in now?
It's not like that, she said quickly.
Then what is it? Mark demanded. Why is he here again? Are you two…
Stop, Lena said sharply. But the accusation was already hanging in the air, tightening around her like rope. Ethan stayed still, unreadable. Lena felt heat rise to her cheeks. Not because she'd done something wrong, but because a small, secret part of her wished, just for a moment, that Mark's suspicion wasn't a suspicion at all. Mark didn't wait for an explanation. He walked right up to Ethan, dripping water across the carpet, chest puffed like he thought intimidation still worked when he was wearing nothing but a towel. You can leave now, Mark said. We don't need charity. Ethan didn't move. His eyes stayed level, steady. I'm not here to cause trouble. Too late, Mark snapped. You think you can show up with a bag of supplies and what? Steal my family?
Lena stepped between them.
Mark, stop. He's just helping. You weren't here yesterday. He was.
Mark turned on her with a sharp glare. You always have an excuse for strangers.
He helped me,
Lena said, her voice shaking.
when no one else did.
Mark's expression changed. Not softer, harder. Something calculating moved behind his eyes. Right. So what did you promise him? Lena felt the words hit her like a slap.
Nothing.
Mark shrugged like he didn't believe her, but didn't care enough to argue. His attention swung back to Ethan. Whatever you're doing, stop it, and stay away from her. You don't get to decide who helps her, Ethan said quietly. The room went still. The baby made a small fussing sound, and Lena rocked her gently, hoping it would drown out the tension stretching too tight between the two men. Mark stepped closer to Ethan, jaw tight. This is my house. Ethan didn't flinch. Then maybe treat the person living here like she belongs in it. Lena drew in a breath, because she'd never heard anyone tell Mark that. Not once. Not ever. Mark didn't react with anger this time. He reacted with something worse. Cold silence. Ethan seemed to realize this was as far as the conversation could go. He turned to Lena. If you need anything, he said softly, call me. I mean it. She nodded, her throat thick. I will. He gave her one last look, steady, grounding, the same look he gave her in the hospital, and left. The door clicked shut. Mark stared at it for a long moment before turning on her. You embarrassed me. I didn't do anything. You let him think you need him. I don't, she said quietly. He was kind. That's how it starts, Mark muttered. Next thing I know, you're running around behind my back with some rich guy. Mark, stop, please. But he didn't stop, not for the rest of the day. He made small comments, sharp ones, needling ones. He watched her when she fed the baby like he was trying to catch her doing something wrong. And every time her phone buzzed, from Rachel's posts, from strangers commenting, from her mother calling to ask if the rumors were true, Mark's eyes narrowed like each vibration proved something. By evening, Lena wanted nothing but quiet, but the apartment never gave her that. Mark paced, talked on the phone, left for an hour without explanation, came back smelling like beer. She bathed the baby in the sink, humming to keep herself grounded. She held her daughter close as if the warmth could shield both of them from the growing pressure inside that apartment. The next morning, she woke to the sound of Mark whispering on his phone in the kitchen. She didn't mean to eavesdrop. She was walking out to make a bottle, but his words made her freeze. Yeah, I saw her, he said. She's still trying to play the victim. You were right, she's milking it. Lena's stomach dropped. He was talking to Rachel. Mark laughed under his breath. Yeah, I'll send you the photos. She looks miserable. You'll enjoy it. Her throat closed. She tightened her grip on the bottle so hard it hurt. He kept talking. And if you want more dirt, you'd better send the money first. I'm not doing this for free. Lena's vision blurred. She backed away before he noticed her and went into the bedroom, closing the door quietly. She sat on the bed, shaking. He was selling information about her to her sister, the same sister who'd been destroying her online for days. She didn't cry, not yet. She pressed her hand over her mouth and focused on breathing, on keeping the sound inside so the baby wouldn't hear her panic. Her phone buzzed with another notification. She didn't want to look, but her hand moved on its own. Rachel had posted another video, talking, smiling like she enjoyed every second of it. Some women just want sympathy. They can't handle real life. They're unstable, unfit, honestly.
The comments were already stacking up, words that cut deep enough to feel physical. Lena turned the phone off. She held her daughter close, breathing in her soft warmth.
I'm not unstable, she whispered. I'm trying.
But the walls felt like they were closing in. Around noon there was a knock at the door again. Mark opened it. She heard his annoyed tone before she saw who was there. "What do you want?" A woman's voice answered, calm, professional.
Are you Mark Evans?
"Yeah?"
And this is the residence of Lena Carter?
Lena stepped into the hallway with the baby. Two people stood at the door. A man and a woman in business attire, clipboards in hand.
Good afternoon,
The woman said.
We're from Child Protective Services. We received an anonymous report.
Lena's breath left her.
A report? We're here for clarification and a welfare check.
Mark didn't look surprised. He just stepped back and said, "Sure, come in." Like he'd been waiting for this. Lena's knees went weak.
There's been a mistake. I'm taking good care of her, I swear.
"This is a routine visit," the woman said. "We just need some information." But the tone wasn't reassuring. Not really. Not when the man's eyes scanned the clutter, the sink, the apartment that wasn't perfect. Not when the woman made notes without expression. Lena tried to steady her voice.
She's healthy. She just had her checkups. The nurses said she's perfect.
"We'll need to verify that," the man replied. "And we have a few questions." The next 30 minutes were a blur of fear. Questions about stability, about support, about her relationship with Mark, about accusations she'd never heard before. Neglect, emotional instability, hostile environment. Every word pulled tighter at her chest. When they finally left, promising to follow up soon, Lena's legs nearly gave out. She sank onto the couch, holding the baby like she was the only thing tethering her to the ground. Mark stood over her. He didn't comfort her. He didn't sit down. He just looked bored. "Well," he said, "maybe now you'll take things seriously." Her heart cracked.
Did you do that?
"Do what?"
Call them.
Mark scoffed. "Don't blame me because you look unstable to strangers." She stared at him, stunned. He grabbed his jacket. "I'm going out. Don't wait up."
Mark,
"What?" he snapped.
don't go, please. I need help. I can't do this alone.
He breathed out a long, annoyed sigh. "You're supposed to do most of this stuff anyway. You're the one staying home."
That's not what
He waved a hand like he was swatting a fly. "If you want me here, start acting like someone worth staying for." Her stomach dropped. Mark grabbed his phone and shoved it into his pocket. "And stop talking to that guy. I'm not stupid. You clearly want him to come back."
I don't,
she whispered, even though some part of her didn't know if that was completely true. He walked to the door.
Mark, don't leave. Please. I'm scared.
He opened the door without looking back. "You should be." The door slammed behind him. Lena stood there shaking, baby crying in her arms, feeling the sound echo inside her chest until something inside her broke wide open. She didn't know that he wasn't just leaving for the night. She didn't know he wasn't coming back. She didn't know he was about to betray her in a way she couldn't imagine yet. But she could feel it. The cliff was coming, and she was already on the edge. Lena woke to the sound of fists pounding on her front door. Not gentle knocking, not someone calling her name, hard, insistent hits. She jolted upright, heart slamming against her ribs. The baby startled in the bassinet beside her and began to cry. Lena scooped her up instinctively, whispering, "It's okay, it's okay," even though her own hands were shaking. The pounding came again. "Open up! Management!" Her stomach dropped. She forced herself out of bed, clutching her daughter against her shoulder. When she opened the door, the building manager stood there holding an envelope. He didn't smile. He didn't even look sorry. "Rent's overdue," he said. 2 months.
I know, she said. I'm trying. My hours got cut and…
"That's not my problem. Notice is in the envelope. 30 days. Her legs felt weak.
30 days?
He sighed and rubbed his forehead. "Honestly, the owner wants this place cleared sooner. Too many complaints."
Complaints?
She repeated, confused. He motioned toward the hallway. "Neighbors said there's screaming, crying, arguments, a baby crying all night." Lena held her daughter tighter.
She's a newborn. I'm doing everything I can.
"Doesn't matter," he said, already stepping back. "You're being watched. I don't want trouble on my property." He walked off before she could say another word. She shut the door slowly, locking it even though it didn't make her feel safer. She pressed her forehead against the wood, trying not to fall apart. 30 days, and no income, and Mark gone, and CPS already watching her. She kissed her daughter's head, breathing in the soft warmth. "I won't let anything happen to you," she whispered. "I promise." But she didn't know how to keep that promise anymore. By mid-morning, her phone exploded with notifications again. Dozens, then hundreds. Her stomach turned cold before she even opened the screen. Rachel had posted a video. Lena tapped it with a trembling thumb. The clip began with shaky footage of Lena sitting on the kitchen floor from 2 nights ago, having a panic attack while holding her newborn. She didn't even realize the camera had been there. Mark must have filmed it. Rachel's voice narrated over the video like she was hosting a documentary. "This is what she's really like. She can't handle one baby. Imagine what else she's hiding. I'm worried for the child." The video cut to a still shot of Lena looking exhausted in the hospital bed. "She needs help, not sympathy. Help." Comments poured in faster than she could read them. "Poor baby. She's losing it. Someone call CPS before it gets worse." Her throat closed. Her hands went numb. She dropped the phone onto the couch and backed away from it like it had burned her. A knock sounded through the apartment. Not the harsh pounding from earlier, this one quieter, but colder. CPS again. Lena felt the floor tilt under her feet. She picked up her daughter, kissing her tiny cheek, trying to steady her heartbeat. A woman from yesterday stepped inside with a clipboard. The man wasn't with her today, and that scared Lena more. Something about a second visit so quickly felt like a warning.
We received additional reports, the woman said. We need to ask a few follow-up questions.
I didn't do anything wrong,
Lena said, voice too thin.
We're not accusing you,
the woman replied in the same neutral tone that accused her without saying the words.
These are procedures.
They walked through the apartment, the dishes in the sink, the laundry basket, the clutter Mark had left. None of it dangerous, none of it harmful, but all of it looked like she was barely holding the world together with tape. She answered every question as steadily as she could, but her voice kept breaking. When they finally left, the woman said, "Expect further contact." Not, "We'll be in touch." Not, "You're doing your best." Just the clinical promise of more scrutiny. The door closed, and Lena sank onto the couch with her baby against her chest, rocking her slowly. She forced herself to breathe. In, out. In, out. But the room felt smaller each time she inhaled.
Around noon, her phone rang with an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something pushed her thumb across the screen. Hello? Lena? Etham's voice. Her eyes filled instantly. She tried to breathe quietly so he wouldn't hear her falling apart. Are you okay? He asked, alarmed by the silence. No, she whispered, and the honesty slipped out before she could stop it. What happened? She closed her eyes. Everything. He didn't push. He waited. My sister, she posted a video. She twisted everything, and CPS came again, and I got an eviction notice, and Her breath broke. I don't know how to fix any of it. There was a quiet rustle on his end of the line, like he was standing up fast. I'm coming, he said. No, she said quickly, please don't. If Mark comes back and sees you, Mark is the last person I'm concerned about, Ethan said. She swallowed hard. Ethan, I can't. Your job, your company, I'll deal with that.
You said that before, she whispered, voice thick. And I don't want to be another reason your life gets worse. He didn't speak for a moment. When he did, his voice had dropped to something soft and sincere. You're not a problem, Lena. No one had ever said those words to her, not in that tone. She gripped the phone like it was the only solid thing left in her world. I'll be there in 10 minutes, he said. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to see him. She wanted someone steady, someone safe, someone who didn't look at her like she was failing. But she shook her head, wiping tears with the back of her wrist. Please don't come. Not now. They're watching me. People are looking. They think the worst. I can't give them more ammunition. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice held a raw edge. I hate this. Me too. A knock slammed against a door in the background on his end. Raised voices. Tension. Ethan? She asked. He exhaled slowly. I have to go into a meeting. It'll be quick. If you need anything, call me. I'll walk out. Her heart squeezed. Please don't walk out. You can't. Lena, I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. She heard him breathe in sharply, like her words hit him deeper than she meant. I'll call you after, he said quietly. When the line went dead, Lena pulled her daughter close and rested her forehead against the baby's tiny head. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm trying. I swear I'm trying. Hours passed in a fog of fear and exhaustion. She cleaned the dishes. She folded the laundry. She tried to make the apartment look like a stable home, even though her insides felt wrecked. At sunset, a neighbor walked by the open doorway of the laundry room. A woman who used to smile at her, who used to ask about the pregnancy. The woman paused, looked at Lena with her worn clothes, tired face, crying baby, then turned her head and kept walking. Like Lena was contagious. Like being near her might damage her life. Lena carried the warm laundry back to the apartment in silence. She didn't cry. She was too tired to cry. When she stepped inside, her phone buzzed. It was a photo, sent from an unknown number. A screenshot of messages, Mark and Rachel, talking about her, laughing at her, planning posts, planning the CPS calls, planning to push her over the edge. Lena stared at the words until they blurred. Her chest tightened, her hands trembled, her knees nearly buckled. They'd been working together, not just recently, for months. The air felt too thin to breathe. The phone buzzed again, another message from the same number. Thought you should know who your real enemies are. No name, no explanation. Just a truth dropped in her lap like a bomb. Her daughter cried, sensing her panic. Lena picked her up, holding her close, feeling their shared heartbeat of fear. When the sharp knock hit the door again, louder this time, Lena flinched so hard she almost dropped the phone. She opened the door to two CPS workers, not the woman from earlier, two new faces, firm, unsmiling. "Miss Carter," one of them said, "we need to discuss an urgent development." Her throat closed. "Now?" she asked. "Yes," the man said. "It concerns the safety of your child." Her grip tightened around her daughter. "She's safe. She's with me." "We need to talk inside," the woman said. Lena stepped back, heart pounding. She didn't know it yet, but everything was about to break. And Ethan wasn't there. He was sitting in a boardroom across the city, being cornered with questions about her. With every minute passing, both of their lives were being pulled toward a cliff neither could stop. The CPS workers stepped into the apartment like they already knew what they were going to find. Their eyes moved quickly, over the dishes drying on the counter, the folded laundry stacked neatly, the crib in the corner. They weren't looking for the truth. They were looking for confirmation of whatever someone had told them. Lena held her daughter close, her arms tightening around the tiny, warm body. "What urgent development?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The woman opened her clipboard. "We received multiple new reports today. Several were accompanied by photos, videos, and messages suggesting your mental state may be deteriorating." Lena blinked. "That's not true. I'm tired, that's all. I'm taking care of her. I'm doing everything alone." The man studied her face. "Are you feeling overwhelmed?" "Every new mother feels overwhelmed." "That's not what we asked." Her throat closed. "I am not harming my child." The woman lifted a tablet. "This video was sent anonymously." She pressed play. Shaky footage showed Lena pacing the apartment, holding the baby while crying. Silent tears, but tears all the same. It looked bad, worse than it really was, because someone had edited the sound. They'd added gasping, added trembling breaths, removed the part where she soothed her daughter. It was the same night Mark had stormed out. Someone, Mark or Rachel, had pieced together clips and framed them as proof she was unstable. Lena shook her head. "That's not accurate. I was scared because CPS came the first time. I was stressed, but I never hurt her. I never would." The man closed the tablet without expression. "We're required to treat all allegations seriously, especially when they come in volume." "Volume?" she repeated, her voice cracking. "People online are lying about me. They don't know me." "That may be," the woman said gently, "but the reports were credible enough that we must investigate." Lena's heartbeat thudded painfully. "Please. She's safe. She's fed. She sleeps in my arms. She's loved." The workers exchanged a look that made her knees weaken. The man stepped forward. "Miss Carter, we need to bring your daughter in for temporary protective custody while we complete a more thorough assessment." Her world went silent. "No." The word came out as a whisper. "No. No, please.
Please don't take her. I haven't done anything wrong. The woman's tone softened, but the softness made it worse. This is temporary. You said that last time, Lena said, tears blurring her vision. You said it was routine. This is different, the man replied. The volume of evidence. It's lies! Lena cried, stepping back, clutching her daughter so tightly the baby whimpered. She's sister hates me. My boyfriend, he's working with her. They're setting me up. The workers didn't react. They'd heard too many excuses, too many stories. They didn't know hers was the truth. The woman held out her arms. Please don't make this harder. Lena shook her head violently. Please, you can't take her. She needs me. The man stepped closer. If you don't comply, we'll be required to involve law enforcement. Lena's breath broke. She looked around the apartment desperately, as if there might be something she could hold up as proof of her love. Clean clothes, fresh diapers, warm bottles, a crib with blankets she had folded herself. Please, she whispered again. She's all I have. The woman lowered her voice. Ma'am, we have no choice. The man gently touched her arm. We're not here to punish you. Yes, you are, she whispered. You're punishing me for being poor, for being alone, for being tired. Her daughter stirred in her arms, sensing her fear. Lena pressed her lips to the baby's forehead, tears hitting the soft skin. Mummy's here. Mummy's here. I won't let them take you. But the workers stepped closer, their hands out. Miss Carter, the man said firmly, we need you to hand her over. Lena backed against the wall, shaking so hard the baby cried. I can't. The woman's voice changed, no longer soft, no longer tender. Ma'am, now. Lena's arms trembled. Her chest felt like it was collapsing inward. She wanted to fight, scream, run. But if she resisted, they'd take her daughter more violently. She didn't want her baby to see that. She didn't want her first memories to be fear. Her vision blurred completely. She kissed her daughter again, breathing her in, memorizing her warmth. I'm so sorry, she whispered into the tiny ear. I'm so sorry. Her arms loosened, breaking apart piece by piece. The woman stepped forward and lifted the baby gently, cradling her with practiced care. The baby cried louder now, reaching for the familiar warmth she had just lost. Lena's hands remained suspended in the air long after the weight was gone. Her knees buckled. She sank to the floor. No, she choked out. Please, she needs me. Please. But they were already walking toward the door. We'll be in touch, the man said, his voice distant. The door closed behind them. Silence dropped like a hammer. Lena folded over, pressing her hands to the floor, sobbing so hard her breath wouldn't come. The sound scraped from her lungs, raw and broken. She didn't know how long she stayed there, minutes, hours. Time blurred until the room seemed to tilt around her. Her palms burned, her throat ached. Her heart felt like it had shattered in her chest and was spilling out onto the floor. At some point her phone buzzed once, then again, then several times. Her trembling hand reached for it. A news alert lit up the screen. She tapped it without thinking. A grainy video loaded, recorded by a neighbor, posted online before the CPS workers had even reached their car. The caption read, CPS removing the child from the unstable woman downstairs. The clip showed the hallway. It showed the baby crying. It showed Lena collapsing in the doorway, begging. It showed everything.
and the whole city was already watching it. The live stream cut to a news studio. A reporter spoke urgently. "We've also received confirmation that the woman involved has been previously connected to Billionaire CEO Ethan Hale." A boardroom television flickered to life across town. Ethan had just walked out of a brutal shareholders' meeting when the sound caught his attention. His assistant grabbed the remote, but Ethan's hand shot out to stop him. He stared at the screen. He saw Lena. He saw her collapse. He saw her reaching for her child. He saw the baby carried away. His face drained of color, his chest hollowed out. And in one split second, he realized he had chosen wrong. He had chosen the company, the vote, the politics, the pressure. And now Lena was alone on the floor, losing the one thing she loved most. The reporter's voice echoed through the boardroom, distant and cold. "CPS has removed the child pending investigation. More updates soon." Ethan's hand tightened around the remote until his knuckles went white. The room around him kept talking, kept moving, kept breathing. But Ethan didn't move. He couldn't. Because for the first time in years, he felt something break. And it wasn't just guilt. It was something deeper. Something he wasn't ready to name. Something that came too late. Lena was suffering, and he wasn't there. Ethan didn't remember standing up. One moment he was staring at the television in the boardroom, the video of Lena collapsing still frozen on the screen. The next, he was walking, fast, past the long table, past the shocked faces of executives, past his assistant calling his name. His pulse hammered in his throat. Every step felt too slow. Someone blocked the doorway. "Mr. Hale, the vote." "Cancel the meeting," Ethan said. His voice was low, dangerous. "I have something more important to handle." "You can't leave," the CFO insisted. "We're hours from a takeover attempt. If you walk out now, you lose the company." Ethan stopped. For the first time all day, he really looked at them. Men who had been advising him for years, men who insisted they cared about the company. Not one of them cared about the woman crying on that hallway floor. "Then I lose it," he said. "I won't sacrifice her again." The room fell silent. Someone whispered, "Is this about the woman on the news?" "Yes," Ethan said. "And if any of you leak one more rumor about her, consider yourself unemployed." Gasps. Shock. But Ethan wasn't performing. He wasn't trying to intimidate. The words came out too raw for that. He walked out. His assistant jogged after him. "Sir, what do you want me to cancel? What do you want me to prioritize?" Ethan didn't slow. "Everything. Cancel everything. I need legal on one line, PR on another, and I want a full background check on everyone who's been harassing her online." "Yes, sir. And you also asked for a private investigator," Ethan said. "Find out who took the video in the hallway and who sent the CPS reports." The assistant swallowed. "You think it was targeted?" "I think," Ethan said tightly, "someone decided to destroy a woman who didn't have the power to fight back." He pressed the elevator button, jaw tight. "And that was my job," he added quietly. The elevator doors closed around him. He didn't let himself breathe until he reached the garage. His hands were shaking. He didn't bother hiding it. Emotions he had shut away for years were ripping through him, one after the other. Anger, fear, guilt. Something softer beneath the fear he wasn't ready to name. He got in the car. He drove too fast. Every red light felt personal. Every slow driver made him want to scream. He turned corners with more force than needed, gripping the wheel tight. He had no plan for what he would say when he saw Lena. He just knew he needed to see her breathing, standing, alive. Nothing else mattered. He reached her apartment in record time. He rushed up the stairs 2 at a time. The hallway was empty, too quiet, too clean. The kind of quiet that meant the worst had already happened. He knocked hard. "Lena?" No answer. He knocked louder. "Lena, please open the door." Still nothing. His heart thudded against his ribs. He tried the handle. Locked. He stepped back, ready to break it open, but just before he pushed, he heard movement. The lock clicked. The door opened a few inches. Lena stood there, barefoot, eyes red, shoulders shaking, her arms empty. Ethan's breath caught. He had prepared himself for crying, for panic, for anger, but nothing could have prepared him for the look on her face. She wasn't just crying. She was hollow, like someone had scooped out every part of her that made her human and left only grief behind. "Ethan," she said. Her voice sounded like it came from the bottom of a well. "They took her." He didn't move for a full second. Then he stepped inside and pulled her gently into his arms. She didn't resist. She collapsed against him like she'd been holding herself upright with nothing but willpower, and it finally ran out. Her forehead pressed into his chest. Her hands gripped his jacket. She shook so hard he wrapped both arms around her to steady her. "I'm here," he murmured. "I'm here now. I'm not leaving." She let out a sound that wasn't a cry or a breath, but something broken between the two. She shook her head.
They said I'm unstable. They showed fake videos. They said she's unsafe with me.
Her fingers twisted in his jacket.
I begged them.
He tightened his arms around her. "I know. I saw." She froze.
"You saw?"
He nodded. "It was on the news." Lena's eyes closed. A tear slid down her cheek, warm against his skin.
"I don't know how to fix this, Ethan. I don't have money. I don't have anyone."
"You have me," he said. Her breath hitched.
"Why?"
The question sliced straight through him. He stroked her back gently. "We'll talk about that later. Right now, we get your daughter back." She swallowed hard.
"How?"
"With everything I have," Ethan said. "Every lawyer, every investigator, every resource. I will tear apart anyone who did this to you." She pulled back slightly to look at him. His face was tight with a mixture of fury and something else, something softer, something that made her heart squeeze painfully.
"You don't have to do this,"
she whispered. "Yes," he said, "I do." Because he couldn't pretend anymore. Because somewhere between the hospital and the boardroom, Lena had stopped being someone he helped once and had become someone he couldn't walk away from. He released her gently. "I need you to sit, drink water, breathe. I'll handle the rest."
"I'm scared,"
she whispered. "I know."
"And I hate that I need you."
He knelt in front of her so she had no choice but to meet his eyes. "Needing someone doesn't make you weak." She didn't answer. She just looked at him, tired, heartbroken, but also something else. Something like trust, even if she didn't want it. He stood and texted his assistant. "Activate everything, now. Find Rachel Carter and Mark Evans. Bring me everything. Leak nothing. I want truth only." Then he turned back to Lena. Someone did this to you on purpose. We're going to prove it. She hugged her knees to her chest. It won't matter. People think what they want. People will think what I show them. His jaw tightened. And I'm going to show them the truth. He walked through the apartment, scanning it carefully, not judging, but assessing what CPS might have seen. He took photos, documented everything, sent them directly to the legal team. Then he turned back to her. I want you with me tonight. She blinked. At your place? Yes, it's safer. They won't dare show up there without cause. She hesitated. It feels like running. No, he said gently. It's protecting yourself while we fight. She looked down at her hands. I can't be in your way. You have your company, your board, your whole life, Lena, he said quietly. I already almost lost you once today. I won't risk it again. The raw honesty in his tone made her chest tighten. She looked up at him, searching his face.
I don't know how to let someone fight for me,
she whispered. His voice softened. Then let me show you. She said nothing, but she stood slowly. Ethan offered his hand. She hesitated for a long moment, then finally placed hers in his. His fingers closed around hers, warm and steady. They walked out together, down the hallway where neighbors had filmed her, down the stairs where rumors had spread, down into the cold evening air that felt sharper than before. He opened the passenger door and helped her in gently, as if she might break from any sudden movement. When he closed the door and walked around the car, Lena rested her head against the window. She felt empty, lost, terrified. But for the first time since her daughter was taken, she also felt the faintest flicker of something else. Hope. Ethan got in the driver's seat. Where are we going first? She asked softly. He started the engine, eyes fixed ahead like a man preparing for war. To expose every person who hurt you, he said, and to get your daughter back. Lena closed her eyes, breathing slowly. She didn't see Ethan glance at her once, or the way his hand tightened on the steering wheel, not with anger, but with something he hadn't let himself feel for years. Something he wasn't ready to say out loud yet. But soon, everything would come out, and nothing would ever be the same. Ethan's penthouse felt like another world. Quiet, clean, still. Everything in place, every surface smooth, every corner open and bright. But Lena didn't notice any of that when she walked in. She stood frozen near the doorway, her arms wrapped around herself as if her ribs might fall apart if she didn't hold them in. She had never felt smaller. Ethan shut the door behind them and kept his distance, watching her carefully. Not intruding, not hovering, just being there. You can sit wherever you want, he said softly. She walked to the couch and lowered herself onto the edge. Her hands trembled in her lap. Ethan went to the kitchen and poured her a glass of water. When he handed it to her, their fingers brushed. She breathed in a little too quickly at the contact. He sat across from her. I made some calls on the drive. Her stomach tightened. What did you find? He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Rachel and Mark weren't just attacking you for attention. They've been working with a small group online to fabricate evidence. Fake screenshots, edited videos, coordinated false reports. Her breath caught. So, it wasn't just them? No, he said, but they were the center of it. Rachel wanted revenge. Mark wanted money. The others wanted drama. Lena's throat tightened until she could barely swallow.
I knew they hated me, but I didn't think anyone would go this far. I'm going farther, Ethan said. My lawyers are already filing injunctions and demanding all posts be removed. We'll expose every fake account, every lie, every edit. She looked at him with raw disbelief. You can really do that? I can do more. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then showed her the screen. A message from his investigator. Found everything. You were right. Both involved for months. Below it were attachments, emails, screenshots, bank transfers, private messages between Mark and Rachel. Lena covered her mouth with her hand. Each new detail felt like another thread snapping inside her. Ethan watched her, voice low. This proves they planned it. They set you up. They wanted CPS involved. Her eyes blurred. She wiped them and whispered, Why? Why would they do this to me? What did I ever do to them? Nothing, Ethan said, but some people break others to feel whole. She looked away, staring at her hands. This is my fault. I trusted the wrong people. No, he said firmly, this isn't on you. He reached out, stopping just before touching her fingers. You didn't deserve any of this. She wanted to believe him, but the ache in her chest was too deep, too sharp, too heavy. Before she could reply, Ethan's phone buzzed again. This time he answered quickly. Hale, he said. A moment of silence. Then his voice changed, tightened, sharpened, focused like a blade. Is that confirmed? He asked quietly. Lena tensed. Another pause. Good, Ethan said. Have the police pick him up now. He hung up and met her eyes. Mark is being arrested tonight. Fraud, extortion, and participating in falsified reports. Lena stared at him, stunned. He's going to jail? Yes. For a moment she did nothing. Then she let out a shaky breath she'd been holding for days. Relief didn't come all at once. It came in pieces, like the slow easing of a knot that had strangled her for too long. What about Rachel? She whispered. She's next. Almost on cue, another message appeared on his phone. Ethan opened it, frowned, then handed it to her. Rachel's handwriting, a forged signature, a document from years ago, the one that cut Lena off from her adoptive family. She faked this? Lena whispered, feeling her world tilt. She made it look like I stole money? She ruined my relationship with my parents. Yes, Ethan said quietly. She framed you, and we're proving it. Lena pressed a hand to her chest as if she needed to physically hold her heart in place. I lost my whole family because of her. I know. And all this time she acted like I deserved it. Yes. A tear slipped down Lena's cheek. Ethan reached out gently and wiped it with his thumb. She startled at the softness of the gesture, at the warmth in his touch, at the quiet rage in his eyes that wasn't aimed at her. We'll rebuild everything she took from you, he whispered. She swallowed hard. What if it's too late? It's not. Ethan, what if... Lena. His voice softened even more. It's not too late. Not for any of it. Her breath trembled. She forced herself to look away before she dissolved completely. There was another knock on the door, sharp and official. Ethan rose and opened it. One of his attorneys stepped in, carrying a folder. It's done, she said. All evidence submitted. Court order approved. CPS must return the child immediately, pending review. Lena froze. Ethan turned back to her. You're getting your daughter back. For a moment she simply stared at him, unable to process the words. Then her hands flew to her mouth and a sound broke from her chest, half sob, half something brighter. Something like hope cracking open after being buried alive. When? She whispered. Tonight. Her knees buckled. Ethan rushed forward, steadying her gently. Sit, he murmured. Breathe. But she couldn't. She stood there gripping his arms, her chest heaving, her voice fragile. I can't believe this, she whispered. I thought I'd lost her. You didn't, he said softly. You'll hold her in your arms again. Her tears came fast now, spilling over her cheeks. Ethan held her carefully, not tight, not overwhelming, just enough to keep her grounded. It's okay, he whispered. It's okay to feel everything. She cried until her body loosened again. When she finally pulled back, she wiped her face with trembling fingers. Thank you. I don't know how to repay you. You don't owe me anything, he said. But the way he looked at her made her heart twist. An hour later, CPS arrived at Ethan's penthouse, nervous, apologetic, humbled by the legal pressure surrounding them. The woman who had taken the baby earlier held the carrier in her hands. She looked shaken. Miss Carter, she said quietly. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. Lena didn't hear the apology. She only saw her daughter. She rushed forward and lifted her baby into her arms, breath breaking again, but this time from joy. Relief washed through her so intensely she had to sit, clutching the small, warm body against her chest. I'm here, she whispered over and over. Mummy's here. Mummy's here. The workers left quietly. The baby blinked up at Lena, calm and trusting. Ethan watched the reunion from a few steps away, and something inside him loosened too. Something he hadn't let himself feel in years. When Lena finally looked up at him, her eyes were soft and wet. I don't know how to ever thank you for this. He shook his head. You don't have to. She studied him for a long moment. Finally, she asked the question she'd held back since the day they met. Why did you stop for me that night? Ethan's breath caught. He walked toward her and knelt down so he was level with her. His voice dropped to something quiet and honest. Because you looked like someone who'd been fighting alone for too long. His eyes softened. And I didn't want you to. Lena felt something lift inside her, something she thought was gone. Most people don't see me, she whispered. I saw you, he said. I always did. And you don't expect anything? He shook his head slowly. I want nothing you don't choose to give. She let those words sit between them, warm and steady. Then she took a breath. What happens now? Ethan sat beside her. Now you decide. I'll support whatever future you want. I'd like you to work with me in my foundation, advocacy, family support, whatever role you feel right for. But it's your choice. Lena rocked her baby gently. I want a life where I'm not scared anymore. You'll have it, Ethan said with quiet certainty. And I want to be strong on my own, she added. You are, he said. You always were. She smiled, small but real. I just didn't feel like it. That's because people kept tearing you down, he replied.
Now it's over. She looked at him again, seeing not the billionaire, not the CEO, but the man who held her hand during labor, who fought for her when she couldn't fight, who chose her even when he had everything to lose. Her voice softened. And what about us? Ethan inhaled slowly. If you want there to be an us, you won't lose me. She didn't answer right away. She leaned forward and rested her forehead gently against his. Then stay, she whispered. He closed his eyes. I'm here. And he was. Quiet, steady, real. Not perfect, not dramatic, just present in a way she had never known from anyone. Later, as Lena sat with her baby sleeping on her chest and Ethan beside her in the soft glow of the city lights, she realized something important. She hadn't been saved. She had survived. She had stood back up, confronted the truth, fought through the betrayals, and reclaimed her life. Ethan hadn't rescued her. He stood beside her while she rescued herself. And that was the difference. That was the lesson. Because betrayal breaks you, but truth rebuilds you. Love isn't what saves you. It's what comes after the saving, quiet and steady, choosing you without conditions. Sometimes the lowest moment is the doorway to the life you were meant to build. And Lena stepped through it. She wasn't alone anymore. And more importantly, she wasn't afraid.